Hello and welcome to AMA, Ask Media Anything. I'm Andre Williams, a communications instructor at the University of Louisiana at Lafayette, and I will be your host this evening. Thanks for joining us for this conversation between our local media professionals and you, our audience. The 2018 Pointer Media Trust Survey indicates that local media outlets are trusted by a majority of Americans, even as trust in national outlets has declined. It's easy to understand why Acadiana has trust in our local media. In addition to providing us with important information about our area, they're also active participants in our community. So who better to answer our questions about the media than our own local experts? So here tonight to share their insight and answer some of your questions about the complex and constantly developing media industry, we have Ms. Bernadette Lee, morning co-host at News Talk 96.5 KPEL, and John JayCee Falcon, afternoon host at 99.9 KTDY, both with Town Square Media. Welcome.
Hello.
Yeah, thanks for having us.
So a little more about you guys. Bernadette Lee has been in radio for over 20 years in the Lafayette market. She started working in radio shortly after being hired for a news internship with KPEL Radio in 1994. Bernie, as regular listeners know her by, balances the news, humor, and opinion with professional grace. She's passionate about news, politics, family, friends, and our great Acadiana area. Welcome, Bernie.
Thank you so much. This will be really fun.
Good. John JayCee Falcon was born in Florida but grew up in the huge metropolitan area of Abbeville, Louisiana.
That's right.
He served in the United States Army and has worked with Town Square Media since 1998. His love of music keeps him near a radio at all times, and his winning personality and style keep him on the radio. As his bio on KTDY states, his mom was from Cow Island, his dad from Bosco, so the kid never really had a chance.
Here I am.
Welcome, JC.
Thank you very much. Thanks for having us.
I'm also from Abbeville, so Vermilion Parish is definitely representing tonight.
There you go.
Thanks for joining us. So, a little bit about the format today. Tonight's program is about facilitating conversation between media producers and media audiences. If you have a question for our guests during this live program, you can use the hashtags AOC Free Speech Week or hashtag AMA Bernie or hashtag AMAJC to ask questions on Facebook, Twitter, or Instagram. You can also call us at 337-366-8951. Okay, so let's get started today. Both of you have a very long career in media. A lot has changed over the years. Give us a little background on what has changed between then and now.
You want to start?
No, I'd like ladies to go first.
Great.
Unless you want me to start,
Oh,
then I'll let the
no.
lady make the decision.
Okay. I just think it's cute. He thinks I'm a lady. That's good. So, boy, there have been so many changes. Just a variety of different things. It used to be you would go in, you'd prepare for an air shift. You had reel-to-reel machines and cart machines. Now everything is digital. A majority of the time is just spent dealing with local issues, which was always that way before. But now everyone's on Facebook and they're on Twitter and they're on Instagram. So you get a lot more information in a shorter period of time. And to be reactive to that, it can be a tough job sometimes. But it's also a blessing and a curse, I think, because you have all these wonderful people who point out things that maybe we've not done right in a story or something that they think in the community needs to be talked about. And then you have the downside, and that is when people are ugly to other people. So there have been tremendous changes.
One of the things you mentioned about the change and about getting to work and having reel to reel, you would have to edit your commercials. You'd have to edit your news if the news was pre-recorded on reel to reel, and literally you would listen to it, and when you hear a mistake or something you need to cut out, you had to adjust the reel to reel by hand, find the tape head that it's on, mark it, and then listen again to where the end of where you want to cut, mark it with a pen, and physically cut it with a razor blade and tape them together.
Oh, and we used crayons. So before we used crayons, now we're like the Jetsons, I guess.
Well,
maybe?
we used grease pencils is what we called them.
Yeah, they were
But
crayons.
yeah, and so with that being said, there was a lot of work going into getting one newscast on, or getting the information that you have put together in a timely fashion to get it on the air. Technology has changed so much that we can do it rapidly. But as she said, technology has changed so much that we get the news so rapidly, even as it happens. So the technology that improved the delivery of our message to the people, as it improved, so did the technology to get people's messages to us.
Yeah,
I guess. So
definitely.
it kind of kept up with itself. Whereas before, you were struggling to get all information together and get it on the air because your equipment didn't allow you the time. Now you're struggling because your equipment allows you the time, but there's so much information coming in that you just don't have the time, even though your equipment's quick enough, if that makes sense.
No, it makes perfect sense.
With so much information coming in, and we're just bombarded, like you said, it's just an overwhelming, it's constantly being thrown at us. How do you guys decipher what's important, what needs to be put out?
Boy, that's a great question. Gosh, you know, I think for us on our side, the biggest thing.
Can I make the distinction?
Absolutely.
Bernadette Lee is on a news station. So it's different from what I have to do on the music side of radio stations. So we look at things differently. I am able to put, not saying that Bernie isn't funny, but I'm able to share information with a bit of humor. Whereas even though she can share it with humor, there are things that at times that she cannot be humorous, and it has to be a straight read. And this is the news. Whereas I can take it and I can I can make a joke out of it sometimes. But the way I like to do it is I like to deliver it as, here's what's happening, and then make some kind of joke, as long as it's nothing too serious, then make a little joke after it. Bernie can do that on a portion of her show. So just to show the distinction between the two different types of programs we have. Okay, sorry.
Absolutely. Oh, no, absolutely. You know, our biggest thing is there is so much information coming in. We try to gauge what we think will be important to people locally. Obviously, if it is something that people need to know, upcoming election. Today was the start of early voting. That's extremely important. If there is a major change with a thoroughfare, that's very important. But you know, people really want to know, what time is it? What is the weather going to be? And which road is tied up with a bunch of traffic. So those things, especially right in the morning and in the afternoon for JayCee, those really kickstart what we're really doing in the morning. And then all of those other big issues and topics start filling in. And mostly what people want to know is, even if it's a national issue, how's it going to affect me? What's going to happen with me?
And in the morning, when they're bantering back and forth, they don't have programming, regularly scheduled programming. Most of it is them with what they do every day. With me, I have a music schedule that I've got to keep. So when a big news story comes in, when that song ends, if it's something that is a danger to people immediately, whether it's a crash, whether there's a big news story where we need to tell people whether it's take safety now because of a tornado or a big news story happening somewhere, I've got to wait for the song to end unless it's something that is happening right now at the mall. If you can hear me, take cover, that type of thing.
Right.
You know, so it's kind of different for us. But the way that I pick what we share and what people need to hear, usually first is, like Bernie said, if it's something that's going to affect your life, your convenience, or your family, that type of thing, we want to get that out there as soon as we can, so that they're not inconvenienced and they stay safe.
Digging a little deep into that area, one question just came in online. What's one story that you've reported that has had a profound effect on you?
Hurricane Katrina. I was not in town for Rita. I was here for Katrina, 9/11, the shooting at the Grand. Those are just among some things that immediately, the death sentence that was given to Timothy McVeigh for the Oklahoma City bombing. There have been so many things throughout the years. And my job when I wake up in the morning is just to remind people that things are still going. The world's still spinning, and we are just rolling along, even though there are things that people have to know for their daily lives.
When Mickey Shouldn't disappeared, I think affected me most, because a lot of the stories we reported on, Hurricane Rita affected me a lot because I have a lot of family. I had two of my brothers, their homes flooded. So many people, you're from Abbeville as well, you know about what happened down there. My high school was destroyed during Hurricane Rita, my alma mater, I should say. So that one was really tough. But I think Mickey Shunick's disappearance and that story probably touched me deepest, because that was the first time that I was able to report on a story that was so that took the community, that brought the community together so much, and it was a local story. It was us.
Yeah.
And that one really stuck with me.
You both mentioned local stories, and we talked about early in the intro how trust is still up with local media, not so much with national media. What do you guys think needs to take place for audiences to once again trust national media?
Boy, I think we both have some thoughts.
We do have some thoughts. The first thought that I have was teach people which stations are news, and teach them which ones are just talking heads talking about what they think is happening with the news. Now, this gets me going, because I have friends that say all you media people, and I'm like, don't put me in that group. If you are watching a news station, in your opinion, a news station, just because it has breaking news down at the bottom does not mean that it's breaking news. That's the name of the show. So if you are going to consume news, it is your responsibility to investigate and find out what is real or not. And I'm sorry if I get up on a horse here, but I think what the problem is some of these so-called news programs that give a headline and then have everybody come in with their opinions and try to skew it one way or the other. That's what I think the issue is, and people are not doing enough investigation. With social media, It's so great to have social media, but it's so easy to see something that you like and is on your side, and you're like, oh, I like this, and click share.
And it's a fake site.
Before you even know if it's true or not.
That's right.
So if people are mad because of fake news, they need to take a mirror. I'm not accusing everyone, but many of my friends that make those comments, I look at their Facebook pages and I'm like, this isn't true. This is misleading. This is a total outright lie. So it is our own responsibility to find out the truth. You hope that the news people can give you the truth.
That's right.
Find a reputable news station that is giving the news and not opinion.
Everyone in this business needs to do a better job. Everyone. And it doesn't matter if you are in a town of 10,000 people and it's a mom and pop radio station, or you're at the top and you're, a news station that so says crosses the globe. We need to do a better job, all of us, of asking more questions, stepping outside of our own perspective and trying to consider it from someone else's perspective. And I really agree with JayCee that I think people, one of the big things we tell people all the time, especially about elections, go to legitimate news sources and go to multiple sources. And I know that sounds counterintuitive. I have a show, JayCee has a show, and everybody wants to, we're like, okay, you come and listen to what we're doing, right? And everybody wants to do that. At the same time, I want people to go out there and I want them to check out, make sure they're legitimate news sources, and make sure that they're getting a well-rounded view of what's happening in the world. People can make up their own mind. We need to do a better job, all of us. And I think nationally, I think they just need to do a better job of representing all sides, not just one side, not the perception maybe of one side. Definitely keep asking more questions.
Good. And we mentioned earlier that technology allows everyone to have a voice. One of our online audience viewers wants to know, how does the First Amendment right to free speech apply to controversial speakers?
Let me tell you, there are so many groups that I don't care for, but at the same time, I understand why the American Civil Liberties Union would stand up right next to them. I remember one case that stands out in my mind. I don't remember all the specifics, but the American Civil Liberties Union, I believe, if I'm remembering correctly, one of their attorneys was actually representing someone in the KKK because it was an issue about free speech. Well, KKK goes against everything I believe in. I'm disgusted by those people. At the same time, I understand the American Civil Liberties Union because they are there to protect. There's a reason that the First Amendment is the First Amendment. You know, the right to peacefully assemble, the right to have whatever belief system you want to have, and the right to say everything you want to say, with the exception of when you would put someone's life in danger. You know, we all learned in law and ethics in college, but, you know, you can't create a dangerous situation. You cannot
Cannot
tell
run into the
someone
street and yell "Free Boudin."
That's right.
And
Boy, that would cause a
That
panic.
would really cause a
That'd
problem.
be a good day. Yeah. So for me, it's so dear to my heart.
when the controversial flag burnings first started happening, and
Boy, I bet that tore you up.
it tore me up because for a couple of reasons. That's my country, and I love my country. It made me do a lot of
And he served our
introspection.
country. He is a veteran.
And one of the reasons I served our country was to give people the right to burn the
Yep.
flag.
Yep.
So here I am, like, wait a minute, that's one of the reasons I fought is to,
Yeah.
uphold the Constitution. But these people are burning flags. What do? Well, I don't have to agree with them, but I have to give them their right for expression. That's what it calls for.
I agree.
And with everyone having a voice, everyone having access, I mean, you can have a teenager or a seventh grader can get online and get millions of views. How do you guys compete in not only news, but also radio? How do you compete? How do you create enough content to continuously get people to come back and stay engaged?
I think for me, you know, it is the local issue, but it's more of, you know, we're a family in this community, whether it is Abbeville or Lafayette. I grew up in Lafayette. I'm from Lafayette. I've been here my whole life. Whether it's Abbeville, Lafayette, Yadon, I think people really just want to know what's going on in their community. But I think they also want to know that it affects you too. You're not some robot, you know, just talking to them about something that's not really impacting you. You know, and somebody may get 7 million hits on something, and yeah, it may be funny and it may be exciting, but does it impact them? Will it impact them? Will they have the same shared experience with you because we live in this community? So I think just focusing on who we are, what we are as a community, and making sure that we reflect that. I think that's what makes us successful.
I think that competing for a spot, when getting people to listen to us. Radio's been asking that question for years. How do we compete when we just had, a few signals in the market, and now there's 30
Seems like 8
something,
million.
30 something plus just on the air that you can catch sitting out here in the parking lot. So there's a lot to compete with. And of course you have your consultants that tell you do this, do that, do this. But the local always wins. Because you can tune into your satellite whatever, but your satellite whatever is not going to tell you, what's going on under the corner of Johnston and Ambassador
That's
Caffrey.
right.
They're not going to tell you where the hurricane is. They're not going to tell you where the
drive through that
sandbags
traffic,
are.
Right? They won't drive through that
That's
traffic.
right.
They don't have to go get those sandbags.
So being local wins. Saying more in fewer words, in my situation, between songs, wins. Being concise, I think, is the best way to put it. But local, still peppering it with the national scene, because people want to know what I did a blog post about celebrities today. Why do we worship celebrities? It's because
we do.
We want to be like
True.
them. I mean, but you pepper in the what's happening with the Prince and the little Meghan Markle lady, and but just and even taking those stories and turning them local, somehow attaching it to something local, and I think that's what really helps win.
Good. Let's see. Okay. Another question: how do we oftentimes I'm finding, teaching on a college level, many of my students aren't as engaged in news outlets
Boy,
as
isn't
we
that the
have
truth?
been. Yes. How do we engage millennials and get them to come back to listening to radio and watching news and absorbing reputable news from sources we can trust and not just
Yeah, not
headlines
just what they
on
see.
social media?
Yeah, some website.
Wow. Things have changed so much. You know, it used to be the newspaper on the breakfast table. And I can remember my parents reading through the whole thing.
That's
you
right.
know, and not just and the stories were not a headline, couple of blurbs. You know, you had a story
Sure.
for every story. There was a story instead of just a headline, a couple of blurbs. Unless at print time they didn't have all the information yet. And it was that, and it was the radio in the car, and it was the
That's right.
news at 5, 6, and 10.
And in the morning, it was GMA and Passepartout
Right.
and
That's
right.
coffee. And
That's right.
And now, with technology advancing so much and the availability of everything real fast, we had 3 channels growing up, you know? So there wasn't a whole lot to distract you. Now there's so much distraction. How do we get them back? I hate having to think that we need to be more like that, you know?
And I don't think we really do necessarily. I think for our community, I think that eventually those younger people are going to trend that way anyway. You know, as you age and you mature a little bit, your needs, your priorities certainly change.
True.
And you might be much more interested in a news segment than you ever were before.
Are you more interested in news now than you were when you were younger?
definitely.
Same here. I mean, the older I get, the more I realize how important things are. If we can, as I'm not a parent, but as parents, maybe if we can include that in the parental duties of having set
Be
time
aware.
per day or per week
Yeah.
to sit and look at what's going on in the world.
Yeah.
You know, and to be actively engaged with your kids about local and world issues.
And I think, you know, just reminding kids care about themselves and care about other people. Because I think they do become engaged when they understand that as a community, when you work together, you can really affect change. You can help your community grow. So perhaps along those lines.
Okay, I think we have time for one more question. What would you encourage for students or anyone looking to getting into media? What are some skills or techniques they should focus on?
Everything. You have to be a jack of all trades.
You have to be proficient at computers because that's the biggest change in media. You can say it in one word is computers. Since I started in '92, computer technology has come so far and it's helped us with our jobs. I mean, we have so many great tools to use in our jobs right now. Know computers inside and out, back and forth. Know the programs. Know editing software. Take language classes.
Yep.
English.
Read.
Reading comprehension.
Read.
Read everything you get your hands on. Have life experiences.
Wow.
That's
Because
right.
life experiences, I would, if I had a choice between going to college again or traveling the world, I would not have gone to college and I would have traveled the world. Now that I've been able to do some traveling, I would have saved my college money.
Wow.
They're wrapping us up, Bernie. Your
So,
turn.
so it's my turn.
Yeah,
Okay, that's
sorry.
good. No, that's what we're gonna do, though. Okay, we're gonna
It's too
get
late
one of
for
those.
us.
No, yeah, we're gonna do that. We're gonna find a way, and we're gonna go across the globe, and then we'll just bring it back home. Does that sound good?
Okay.
I'm in.
Good.
We could do
Sounds
that.
good. Sounds good. So, thank you for joining us on this episode of Ask Media Anything. We want to thank our media experts for this episode,
They call
Miss
us
Bernadette
experts.
Lee and Mr. JayCee. We hope that you've enjoyed and learned something from our conversation. Again, visit aocinc.org to find more information about this episode and other episodes, and continue this conversation going. Follow the hashtags that we've created, and also follow Miss Bernadette Lee and JayCee. Let's keep it going. Thanks.